You're right. I mean, this idea that we can't even have a conversation with the other side.
You have to. They won.
Thank you. That's it. Bottom line.
Gavin Newsom, the governor of the failed state of California, understands that the Democratic Party is toxic. It's their own fault, but he knows how to fix it. This ought to be good.
Let's get ready to rumble! You can't handle the truth. I'm surviving on the top of the line.
Hi, I'm Pastor Marty. Welcome to the Afternoon Drive. Make sure that you are subscribed to our channel. And once you are, smack the bell, click the word all. That will give you notification of my rants, my ravings, my undeniably flawless reasonings. Please like and share this video. It's the only way that we can get the word out that we're here. Thank you so much for watching and being a part of the Afternoon Drive. Acknowledging that your party is toxic is not profound. It's pretty much being Captain Obvious here. It will be interesting to see if any on the left begin to throw some real shade at Governor Newsom. My theory is they won't. They're going to allow him to create this illusion that he is moderating, to be seen as the sane Democrat that you can dialogue with and listens to both sides, despite the fact that he even called some of the guests on his own podcast, like Charlie Kirk, controversial. Charlie Kirk is controversial. Charlie Kirk goes on college campuses, and unlike when Ben Shapiro, with that nasty little whiny, nasally twit voice of his, would go on college campuses, him and along with Ann Enhe Coulter, and it would result in campuses being set on fire. Charlie Kirk goes on to campuses and actually does dialogue with the other side and engages in healthy back and forth debate and holds his own, does well. And Donald Trump needs to thank Charlie Kirk that it was Charlie Kirk, not just Joe Rogan and going on podcasts, but that Charlie Kirk was the one really shaping and influencing the youth turnout for Donald Trump. And that's a fact. So calling them controversial, yeah, okay, whatever, Gavin. We understand that this is all an act. This bit that you are trying to portray yourself now is you are moderating, saying that the Democratic Party is toxic. In fact, all of this cancel culture and this stuff that they have done to us, it's real and it's got to stop.
These guys are crushing us. The Democratic brand is toxic right now. We had a high water mark 2 weeks ago, and that was a CNN poll at 29% favorability. It's dropped in the NBC poll down to 27%. It's one thing to make noise, but you also have to make sense. And I think with this podcast and having the opportunity to dialogue with people I disagree with, it's an opportunity to try to find common ground and not take cheap shots. I'm not looking to put a spoke in the wheel of their, or at least a crowbar in the spokes of their wheel to trip them up, to your point. And I think it's important. Democrats, we tend to be a little more judgmental than we should be. This notion of cancel culture, you've been living it. You've been on the receiving end of it for years and years and years. That's real. And Democrats need to own up to that. They've got to mature about this.
Well, once again, I hate to be Captain Obvious, but Governor, you are the poster child for this. No, truly, you are the poster child for cancel culture and all of this woke nonsense that America has, by and large, with an absolute overwhelming electoral victory, an overwhelming majority vote of the popular vote, has pushed back and said, we will be canceled no more. We will be censored no more. We will be, we're awake, but we're not going to be woke. We have had it with everything from CRT to DEI. We've had it, we've had it, we've had it. Enough. We want to get back to common sense. We want to get back to living our lives. We're not trying to be prejudiced. We're not trying to restrict anybody else's rights, but we don't want to have our rights trampled. And of course, Bill Maher actually kind of goes after the governor on this one when he says, hey, in your state, you've made it clear that if a young person leaves his house in the morning as a boy and gets to school and wants to put on a dress and be called a girl, you've said that your teachers are not to tell the parents about that.
I see today the Trump administration they talked about, I don't know if this is true, but they talked about the fact that California had a rule that schools cannot be required to notify parents if their kids in school have changed their gender, their pronouns. That's the kind of thing, even though it doesn't affect a lot of people, that makes a lot of people go, well, you know what? That's the party without common sense.
Listen to this.
Now, if that's your state, how are you?
Well, I just disagree with that. I mean, the law was you would be fired. A teacher would be fired if a teacher did not report or snitch on a kid talking about their gender identity.
They should be.
I just think that was wrong. I think teachers should teach. I don't think they should be required to turn in kids.
Yes,
and by
should.
the way,
we're talking about their parents. How can you snitch? The idea of a snitch and a parent to me doesn't compute.
Well, I don't. But what is the job of a teacher? It's to teach. If Johnny's talking about some identity issue or some issue about liking someone of the same sex, is the teacher's job to then report that? By the way, in this law, the teacher can still do that, but they can't be fired if that's what it can't be fired if that's not what they do. And that's something I think is I just think that was fair.
We don't want our teachers snitching to parents. They're simply there to educate. First of all, that's a load of bullhock. That's just absolute, Gavin Newsom showing his true colors, that he's really not moderating. He's really not interested in dialoguing with the other side. This is absolute bullhock at its highest. If a student, and by the way, this is an area of which I am well qualified to talk about. I was a school administrator for 20 plus years. And I can tell you that if a student comes into class and has a visible mark on them, bruising, a handprint on the side of their face, I can promise you that the math teacher, the history teacher, the English teacher isn't going to just turn a blind eye to that. In fact, educators are mandatory reporters. That means that student is going to be talked to, and then a phone call is going to be made, and more than likely a parent or a guardian or someone in custodial position over this child is going to be getting a visit from Child Protective Services. Why does this child have a handprint on their face? Why is there a bruise? So this idea that we teachers, we're above that. We don't get involved in, if a student comes here and wants to transition, be a girl, we feel no need that we have to tell the parents about that. Well, again, you are their caregiver for 8 to 9 hours out of the day. You wouldn't call the parent if the child got hurt on the school ground and had to be rushed to the emergency room. Well, it's not our job to let the parent know that their kid's on the way to the emergency room. I've got to get back and teach my history class. That's what Gavin Newsom, that's the argument he's trying to make. And again, his is the state that overwhelmingly supports this concept of biological males competing against biological females. And he's even said there's aspects of that that are just really not fair. He said, when all of a sudden in girls' sports, we're seeing all these records being set. He said in the long jump, the new long jump champion beat the biological female record by 8 feet. 8 feet. That would be 8 feet. And he said, there's something not fair about that, but we're working on it. We're tweaking it. Hey, here's an idea. How about boys play against boys? Girls play against girls. And for those of you that want to live in delusion land, or you want to be, we just want to be supportive and inclusive, great. Then start a co-ed league. And the boy can call himself a girl. He can call himself a boy. He can call himself a rhinoceros. Doesn't matter. And if there are girls that want to be able to show that they've got what it takes to go up against biological, physical, male, fine. Create that space. Stay out of the female sports. Again, where are the feminists on this? And I saw 2 sportscasters the other day basically telling the parents of junior high age girls, hey, look, one of the sportscasters said, I'm gay, and there's certain men I don't want to see naked in the locker room. Get over it. We all see things in the locker room we don't want to see. You're really going to try to make the argument to the parent of a 13-year-old girl she's got to get over and deal with a 16-year-old boy walking around naked in her locker room and visibly being aroused that he's around all the naked girls. This is the left lunacy, and Gavin Newsom is in this up to his eyeballs. Do not let him fool you. And then he says, it's not like, we're not telling teachers they can't report this to the parent. We're just saying they don't have to. Now, keep in mind that Gavin Newsom is the poster child for all of this. And a year ago, Bill Maher called him out on this.
There's a new law in this. I think we have way too many regulations and laws, as we've talked about. And this one, I think, says if you're a department store with over 500 employees, you have to have a gender-neutral toy department.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, I get it.
So do you think that's silly? Do you think that's a silly thing that we too much government there?
That's an interesting one because the department stores came to us supporting that, and they were the ones making a case for that. They were making a case they're already moving in that direction.
Wanted you to make a law about them?
Well, but they supported the legislation. It wasn't legislation that was enacted, that was initiated from my office, but it was legislation that came up with interesting support from the industry itself. But I understand how that's exploited, and good people can disagree. But that's not something we woke up and said, this is a top priority for the state, when we know the top priorities are homelessness, housing, the issues of crime, quality of life, and issues related to regulation and taxes, which are all top of mind. But I get how those things are weaponized.
Really? All the department stores came to you and said, hey, we want you to make a law that says we have to have gender-neutral toy aisles. We want that law. We want you to tell us that the Easy Bake Oven has to be, right next to something that was, stereotyped for a boy only to play with. We want it all mishmashed together because obviously there are boys who are coming in there who want to play with dolls, and there are girls that are coming in there that want to play with, rockets and toy guns. So the stores came to them and said, hey, create this law. But then don't you love to say, he's trying to, look, I didn't do this. We're just affirming what the stores want to do. It's not like I woke up one morning and made this a top priority. No, you did other things, like when you created I call it the Hair Act, that an employer couldn't tell employees how they had to wear their hair because somehow that was racist. Telling someone that, having their long flowing add-on cornrows, in certain job scenarios was not a good look, and that letting somebody have, a spiked unicorn, hot pink in the front of their hair, you just can't. It's against the law here in California. You can't. See, these are the kind of laws Gavin Newsom is all on board with. Abortion right up to the moment of birth. This is what Gavin Newsom, this is what he spends his time on. Now he wants to talk about, we understand that the real needs of California are the fact that we've got a growing crime rate, we've got rising homelessness and economic issues, all of which, every one of them has gotten worse under you. Worse under you. You're the guy that in 2008 wanted to lead the state in the high-speed rail. We got to have high-speed rail from San Francisco to L.A. Was budgeted at $33 billion. Your state has spent $128 billion as of 2025, and not 1 mile of track has been laid. And now you want to be entrusted with the national economy. Wow.
Alrighty then.
Hey, I got an idea. Maybe we ought to turn Doge loose in California. Because again, this is what these Democrats do. They give lip service to how they're going to address something, how they're going to fix something. And of course, the solution is always just keep throwing money at it. but there shall be no accountability, and we don't ever have to explain why $128 billion later, there's absolutely zero to show for it. Elon, get to California. We need to find out what's going on there. Oh, and by the way, do not fall for the Gavin Newsom, I'm in the middle now, and I'm the Democrat that can be trusted.